Well, welcome. Tonight, we have a special guest, somebody who we love dearly, who's helped us as a town, and who we really wish was unemployed in her current position. It's a topic that we don't want to talk about, because I wish we didn't have to talk about. But this whole opioid epidemic is something that you can't ignore, because now it's hitting us. You know, when we grew up, it was always them. You know, some skanky guy or gal down in an alley in Boston that was on heroin or whatever, that you didn't have to feel the way we have to feel now when it's our neighbor's son and daughter, or, you know, God forbid, our own family. So this is a hard show. It really tugs at the heartstrings. And I have to say, thank God people like Amy are here to help us. So let's start with an introduction.
I'm Amy Leone, and I do a little bit of everything. I guess that's the moral of the story. Most importantly, I'm a mom. And I think in all the things that I do, the one thing that I've learned most importantly over the years, maybe with age, is that my most important job is being home with my kids, because I can see how fast a life can be taken away. I'm fortunate that we have our counseling practice. I have community impact in Milford. I was able to purchase my mentor's, John Fernandez, building, and it's been a new home to us. It's wonderful, and it has more of a feminine twist to it now, so it's nice when they walk into the building.
Denise didn't feminize it enough?
Well, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And
with all due respect, it could be the ugliest, skankiest building. What's beautiful is what goes on inside those walls.
It really is. It really is amazing to see. I am blessed with a staff that is, as I say, we're normal people, because we get it. And, you know, I think we are there for the clients, wherever they're at, and it's their agenda and why they walked through those doors. And, you know, I have ran the juvenile advocacy group for many years, the regional coalition, and which, you know, with the chief, you know, we realized that a lot of those original people that we were working with were now getting into opioids, and they were overdosing in, like, you know, we've talked about before, that we needed to do something about it. And, you know, we have. And it is amazing. It is heart-wrenching, but amazing to see the response and to see the people who maybe, you know, our slogan is no shame, no judgment, just truth. And that is literally, we have seen that manifest itself over the past 2 years, that these families, you know, these sons or daughters, husbands, wives, you know, they were our clients, but now their whole families are our families, you know, and especially when they've lost people, that's not where it ends, you know, like that's just the beginning of the next chapter that we work with them as human beings. Like, what can we do to fight this together? And that, I think, over the last year, because unfortunately, people that, you know, I worked with for many, many years, I've lost, and they've lost their battle. And, you know, now to be on the front lines with their parents fighting this and seeing them heal through the process and being there has been so rewarding, and just an amazing gift that I think their son or daughter has given to all of us, that we're working through them.
Now, give us an idea. You know, we hear about the opioid crisis. I mean, with me, it's being an alkaloid addict. You know, I love my alkaloids, but as you can tell, here it is. You know, caffeine's there.
Yep.
But, you know, it's not a joking topic.
No.
It's not a humorous topic. You know, when you talk about opioids, you know, I would give up coffee if I had to, and it would be annoying.
You'd get a headache, but that would be about it.
Right.
You'd be a little cranky.
Well, if you talk to my darling bride, she'll say she wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Well-
But when we talk about opioid addiction, give us an idea of what that means.
It takes over your life. And when you think about it, I always think about the disease model and the mind, body, spirit. And so in the mind, you get this mental obsession. So if you're addicted to it, the minute you get up, you're already starting to think about how you're going to get it, where you're going to get it, how you're going to scrape the pennies together to get it, or what are you going to sell. And you start to feel sick because you have the physical withdrawals. If you're not having it and your back starts to hurt, you start to get the cold, feels like you get the flu, you're just crummy, and all you're thinking about is getting it. And you know, there's many discussions that I've had with so many people that you're sitting in the parking lot waiting for your dealer to get there or to get it, and the minute you see them driving in, you suddenly feel better. You're not as sick because now you know it's coming. And so even just knowing it's almost right there, that obsession starts to subside a little bit, but then becomes the allergy. And then the allergy is just that you want more and more and more. And so that one cup of coffee isn't going to be enough. You're going to have to keep getting more and more and more, where we think of like peanut allergies. You wouldn't have peanuts because it's going to give you this reaction. But when you're addicted to something such as opiates, you just can't stop. You just want more and more and more and all day, and there's a progression of addiction. And then it starts to affect your spirit and the way that you're acting and stealing and treating other people.
You know, when I think of coffee, you know, when my darling bride laid down the law in the afternoon, I switch over to water. So you have the placebo effect.
Yeah.
You know, so I can substitute something when I'm in a meeting. I got my Holy Cross mug, I'm drinking water. I don't know that it makes any difference whether it's full of coffee or water to me. You know, whether I do decaf or calf,
Right.
like you say, I mean, I probably would get a headache if I took away my alkaloids or my once a quarter alkaloid of nicotine. I got to have a cigar once a quarter, you know, have a drink once a quarter.
But that's enough.
But that's the thing. I don't think people really understand that once you get on an opioid path, it's not like, okay, I mean, we went to the Kennelly's wedding. They all laughed at me because I had drinks that night. And nobody's used to seeing me drinking because I won't drink when I'm driving. And I got made fun of. But if we hadn't gone that weekend, I wouldn't have drank.
Right.
No big deal. Yeah. It's not a mental thing. You know, with me, the coffee is totally mental.
Yep.
I'm used to having it in the morning in my hand. I go to meetings, I have it in my hand.
Walk out of the house with it. I do the same thing.
We have our show tonight. I have my cup of coffee. If I didn't have coffee, you know, if the Sardina family decided they weren't making coffee tonight, I'd switch to water. So for me, it's a mental thing.
Yep.
I don't think it's a physical thing, because if I forget to drink coffee on a Saturday or Sunday, okay, I forgot.
Right.
You know, it feels weird I forgot, but I forgot. So
Not
the
like
mental.
that. Yeah.
The physical, though,
Yeah.
is bad enough. But when I think of opioid addiction, I start thinking of a combination of the mental and the physical that I don't know that people can get over.
No, and you know, the hard part is that most of the time they're doing, at the point that they've been physically addicted to them, they are doing it just to get up and feel okay. They're not getting high. They're not getting that first euphoric feeling. They're
So
just,
the whole dopamine, catecholamine cascade of, oh boy, it makes me feel great.
it's just to get up and go do what you need to do.
So they're now, after a point, fighting just to get to an operational baseline.
Right. To get up and do what they have to do for the day. It's, you know, and there, many people, you know, you could ask many who are in that they're just sick of fighting. You know, like when they get to the point where they're ready for detox, it's just because they've had enough. They're tired, and they have either run out of money or whatever, you know, things have gotten bad, but they're exhausted because they're just trying to skate by just to be okay.
So if I was to ask you, what is opioid addiction?
I mean, I see it as a mental and physical addiction to something that, you know, they can't stop.
Now, too many people look at opioid addiction as a choice. You know, that, you know, okay, you started taking heroin. You decided to get high. But everything I read now says a lot of the people that start were not looking for a high.
And you know, and I don't say that in my personal view, you know, and I do a lot with, you know, working with addicts. Obviously, that's what I do all day. And, you know, a lot of times I'll be asked by the courts to do like a substance abuse evaluation. And my evaluation, that's to see where are they, you know, in regards to their addiction and what kind of services would they need to help them rehabilitate, whether that's counseling or whatever. And there is not one substance evaluation that I will not do without assessing the mental health piece of it, because I feel like in my experience, a substance problem is a solution to the underlying problem. You know, that there's a problem and the drugs are the solution.
Just exacerbate it.
Well, it's a solution because you don't have to think about what's really bothering you. And even if that's as simple as, you know, just classic stories of, you know, a kid who maybe was an athlete and was a great athlete, but underlying all of this was a perfectionist, had to be the best at everything, had low self-esteem, but was the captain of the football team, was the person who, you know, everybody would think, I hope my daughter marries that kid because he's such a nice guy. But underneath that, he was struggling with himself. He needed to be perfect.
So all of a sudden he hurts his knee. He's not the quarterback, running back, whatever, star of the show this weekend. And all that buried or suppressed anxiety now bites him.
Right, and I think it starts, you know, like that person starts with smoking marijuana just because it's, you know, the first thing that they do and felt, okay, like this was fun, starts drinking, experiments with other drugs, and then introduces the OxyContin. You know, what, you know, back you're looking at, you know, where do people start? The OxyContin, the Percocets, then it goes to heroin. You know, so there's that progression that happens. I don't think anybody just picks up heroin and says, this is what I'm gonna try this, you know. But I think there's so much when you sit down and talk to people who are addicted or, you know, who are in recovery, and you talk about what really it is that they're escaping from. There's so much underneath that. And it doesn't mean that it's abuse or neglect or trauma. It's just stuff that we've all had to deal with some type of stuff growing up, you know, whether it's shame, guilt, low self-esteem, eating, you know, whatever it is, but we didn't choose that.
I want to be thin, young, and have hair.
Right.
Well, not a chance on that. I look in the mirror, there's still a fat old bald man. And you got to accept the fact that when I look in the mirror, no thin, no young, and no hair.
And I say all the time, you know, everybody laughs at me because, you know, I'm pretty real and just how it is. I just say it, and I say I'm just like you guys. You know, I say I know I don't have an addiction, thank God. You know, I don't have that. But I did recognize, like I said at the beginning, I realized over these years that the most important thing was for me to be home with my kids and to be present with them. And that's because I used my work as my addiction. And I was there all the time. I was there for everybody else. I was still there for my kids, but when I look back on it, that was my vice. When I would have a bad day, I would go to Dunkin' Donuts and I would get my, you know, iced caramel non-fat latte, and that was my treat. Or I would go down to Rose's and go shopping and talk to her. You know, like those were my things that made me feel better. but then I always knew that that wasn't the solution.
Yeah, we don't like that downward walk that my daughter does
I
with
love it.
Rosie at Spalone's. Yes, yeah. Joe and Rose are wonderful people, except when my daughter starts going down and my wallet starts shaking immediately.
Hey, you know, and part of that is just because you're there with, you know, I only go there to shop.
How do you not enjoy going to see, I mean, forget Joe and
A
Rose, but
family.
even Mama Spalone.
That's right.
She's always there, you know.
And every time I, you know, like I will walk in and I will say, Rose says it's time for therapy. And I am truly, it is yes, because there is 3 people there who are so excited to see me every time I come in, and everybody else who walks through that door.
And they take time. I mean, it's always funny because Joe, my Spalone socks, he said were too boring, so he gave me a holiday pair of socks just to kind of brighten it up.
Brighten it up.
But you know, I think too many times people forget that our kids, it's hard to get time with them,
Yeah.
to literally talk. And like you say, you got somebody that's the football champion or she's the captain of soccer, you know, the beauty queen, the mathematician, that she's #1 in her class at math and science, and you say, life is good.
Is it really?
But do you really take the time to find out, is there something? Because, I mean, I had 16 daughters since they were 6 years old as a soccer team. I had the same girls.
Yeah.
The skinny ones wanted to have more weight. The curvy ones wanted to be skinnier. The ones with no breasts wanted breasts. The ones with breasts wanted to be flat. I mean, you know, no matter what it was, the blondes loved the brunette. The brunette wanted to be blondes.
You know, they never felt good enough.
And you had to sit there and say, you know, I had 16 of the most beautiful young women there were.
Right.
And I was blessed that, you know, we could talk to them about, the things they were going through and my heart stopping, you know. But you could see the kids who their parents took the time not just to show up, but to be
talk.
there.
Physically be there.
Just talk
and
to them.
present.
And, you know, they're not just showing up and, watching them, but you could see them talk and know what's going on in their kids' lives.
Right.
And even for me, I mean, I was with both daughters 4 nights a week since they were tiny. I mean, my youngest, my ungrateful offspring, #2, still tells me I traumatized her because I did miss a field trip and a dance.
And she remembers.
And she can tell you which ones. I'm sitting there saying, you know, the whole time you were in school, I missed 1 field trip and 1 dance. She goes, see, and I'm traumatized. But, you know, all kidding aside, we talked.
Right. You had dinner together.
Oh, yes.
You sat at the table. There was the telephone that was on the wall, that you never answered it, and the
Yes.
TV was off.
They got mad at me whenever somebody would call, you know, boyfriend or whatever, say, yeah, she died and moved to Nepal. Contact her via the Dalai Lama. And it's like, I'm sorry, this is our hour.
That's right.
You know, or when something would happen, they'd come home and, well, you know what happened today at school. Yeah. No, I didn't. Please tell me. You know. But the kids that you see getting hooked, some of them you can't believe. You would think they're the superstars of academics, of sports, of everything.
And some of them are those kids that sat at dinner too. That it wasn't, you know, that we do, and as a parent, I say, you know, and I say it all the time, I believe that I help other people, and maybe I'm here to help other people because, God forbid, if it was ever me, I'm going to need somebody. And my son got hurt this week in school, and we were sitting in the doctor's office, and the first thing, he was white as a ghost. He was in pain, and the first thing the doctor said was, do you want pain meds? And he said, do you know that there's an opioid epidemic going on? And he's 15, and, you know, and I said to myself, you know, like, you've brainwashed him. That's for #1.
That's okay, though. I like this.
But he knows that he doesn't want that because he's afraid. He's
Frankly,
afraid that it might happen.
when I ruined my knee, I got my pain meds. That script is still sitting there because I was scared to death. You know, am I strong enough? You know, and mentally I felt like, okay, I can put up with this pain more than the risk.
Right.
And it's a shame that I had to go through it, but I was scared to death that will it take me?
Yeah.
You know, and 50 years old, I'm going to succumb to a hockey injury? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'll hobble.
And it is scary of that, you know, and we had that discussion of you can take the Tylenol, you can take ibuprofen, whatever it is that you need, like that's okay.
4 ibuprofens kept me going for a long time.
And, you know, we had that discussion with him that night, you know, like that I was proud of him that he didn't just say yes, because we didn't know what that yes was. Was it just Tylenol? We didn't know.
Right.
And it probably was, but it was the whole thing that his immediate reaction was that.
No, but if a physician asks you if you want pain meds, OTCs, I mean, if it's Tylenol or ibuprofen, he's not going to ask you. You can
I would have said, do you want Tylenol?
Right.
And that was what I had said after, you know, not obviously
But now
to my
you
son.
mentioned there's the kids who, for whatever reason, to dull the pain, to take the risk, start with marijuana or alcohol. Now, a
Most
lot
of
of
the
people
time.
in Milford freaked out and said, marijuana, that's reefer madness, it's the gateway drug to heroin. Is that really true?
In my personal opinion, in my experience, I call it a bridge drug because nobody ever stops. You know, if you started smoking pot and you venture on to other things, the pot doesn't stop. It just it bridges you just to the next thing.
But if you didn't have pot, is the bridge a substance? Would you do alcohol? I mean,
Maybe.
because that's the part that I have a hard time saying, well, if I start marijuana. Not that I ever did. You know, as a kid, we never smoked in college.
It's so
Right.
different now what's out there
But I mean,
for
seriously,
kids.
you know, everybody I know has tried it, or most people once, and said, yeah, okay, it's like alcohol. Yeah, okay.
And
But it doesn't force you down the
No.
bridge.
I mean, for some, maybe it started, I mean, but I don't know.
No.
I don't know. I just know there's some people, like you said, who have smoked pot, never did it again. You know, the person who can drink a glass of wine and only finish half of it, the person who has to drink the whole bottle. You know, it's like, it's so different. Is there genetics that's involved in it? Of course, I'm sure. Are you predisposed to an addiction, you know, to that? Yeah, that is true. I mean, do I know? I just know that, you know, what's out there right now it's scary, you know.
But somehow you got through to your son,
Yeah.
right? I know it's hard to believe that they actually listen to us, but,
Yeah.
you know, somehow you got, you know, danger, Will Robinson, danger. You know, what do you tell parents? Because, you know, parents with young kids, the vast majority are scared to death. I mean, I was the whole time, you know, all of a sudden, 8th grade, they're dealing with things that I don't want to know about, but I do.
And I tell parents, you know, because that is a question, you know, like even I have an 8-year-old, and so my 8-year-old, you know, Jeff and I were going on vacation, and he's like, overdoses don't go on vacation. How can you go? And I was like, I know, but, you know, like, Mom needs to go on vacation.
We need to charge our batteries.
You know, but he knew that, like, this is something that doesn't stop, Mom. How are you going to go? Because this is still going to keep on happening. You know, and I think when I am talking to parents, it's like I talk to my kids. You know, unfortunately, my kids see that I am up, you know, like, where did Mom just go? She had to go to the hospital, or I have to do this. And, you know, to see somebody who had experienced an overdose, or I'm at home crying because somebody.
But it can't just be the Nancy Reagan, just say no.
No.
I mean, I'm a young parent, not me, but I've got young kids. What would you tell me? How do I, you know, by the time they hit 8th grade or whatever, okay, you can't have a talk about sex because you embarrass them. You can't have a talk about drugs because they know anything. World politics, they know it. World peace, they're on it. How do I open the door?
I think opening the door is teaching your kids that it's okay to fail. You don't have to get a trophy every, game you play. Like, not every kid is going to win a trophy. Not every kid is going to be the best at what they're doing. And helping them to learn those resiliency skills and the fact that there's no such thing as perfection and you don't need to, teaching them those things, and then how to express their emotions, how to deal with being mad, sad, happy, scared, and talking about those things is going to help them along the way when they don't need an escape. Because a lot of times kids will do it to escape, start smoking pot, or they don't, you hear all the kids, growing up, you had to, get a buzz before you went to the party because you were more social, or so getting them comfortable with who they are. And my advice always, and as a parent of a younger child, I want him to know who he is as an individual and to be comfortable with that. And, is there good and bad that comes of that? Of course. But I mean, it's teaching him about expressing himself in an appropriate way, and I think that's how you start.
Thing because facilitating having all my girls talk to each other. Because the skinny ones didn't want to talk to the heavier ones. The tall ones thought the short ones had the, life of leisure. They're not beanstalk. They can go out with any kid because they don't want to go out with a kid shorter than that. It's like, oh God, the busty ones didn't want to. It's like, guys, you're all beautiful. Yes, you're blonde. Okay, live with it. You're not going to be brunette unless you buy a bottle of color. And it doesn't matter. You'll still be. I remember when we were having estrogen wars, and my oldest, the day before our pictures, our Christmas pictures, she dyed her hair blue. Bright blue. She wanted to get a reaction. I got home, and she told me later how upset she was at me because I walked in, I gave her a kiss, and she says, "What do you think?" I said, "I love you. I guess I didn't love a Smurf. I think you look more beautiful the way you were, but you're still beautiful. You're just Smurf beautiful." And all of a sudden, that kind of like, oh, okay, I'm not getting the reaction. A week later, away went the blue hair. Inside of me, I'm like, I want to kill. Right. My beautiful daughter looks like a Smurf. But it was just getting her to understand. Doesn't matter.
Right.
God help you, blue hair. I still keep the picture. And I know why she did it. The night before Christmas pictures, her and my darling bride were at war, and she wanted to show Mother.
Right. I'll get back.
That I'll get back because we won't have Christmas pictures. My darling bride, much smarter than me, walked in and said, "Okay, cool." "What do you mean cool?" "Well, we're going for Christmas pictures at 5 o'clock. And she's looking like waiting for her. "Whatever you want. You want to do it in blue hair? Do it in blue hair."
Right.
Of course, the two of us went into the room and we're throwing pillows at each other. It's your fault. But I think the key is for her to understand that no matter what she dressed as, made her look at, whether she got 100 on her test or 95 or whatever,
right,
she was still the light of my life. And, hopefully enough people understand and will take the time. And, some of the people, I had a couple mothers on my soccer team that I always was amazed at because we had 2 offspring and we had 3 people because my sainted mother was with us the whole time. So it was 3 against 2. We almost broke even. But when I saw some of the even single father with 2 kids, I don't know how they could find the time to just show up.
Yeah.
Never mind have quality time talking, but if they don't,
what happens?
So another thing that has been amazing to me is I always thought of, as you say, these kids growing up, they're going through high school, they're having problems. Then I read that this opioid problem is reaching out to old men like me, 60 years old. I mean, is that fallacy? Is it true?
No, I mean, here in Milford, I mean, out of the 82 overdoses that we've had this year,
82?
yeah, and that's as of the last overdose that we had, yeah. And we've had 7 deaths, I think. 7 deaths, 82 overdoses, and 7 have been related deaths, yep. And 8 of those people are over 50 who have experienced overdoses, you know. So it's happening. I mean, yes, our biggest age range of those who have experienced it are that 20s. You know, that is the majority of the age range that we're seeing, but 30s, 40s.
Somebody my age, well, not even my age, 50s is younger than me. Why? I mean, at this point, my life is my life, good or bad. You know, even if I won a lottery, I don't think my life would change much.
Right. But, and you know, and that's been the hard part is, you know, some of it, unfortunately, a lot of them, you know, haven't reached out for the extended services. You know, some have, but, you know, it seems like it's been a long history that they've just been struggling with some type of addiction over the ways, had periods of sobriety, but just couldn't stay on. And, you know, unfortunately, it led them to
these
this.
are typically people who've been fighting for a long time. It's
Yeah.
not like I woke up at age 50.
No.
That makes me feel better
And, you know, and it's,
because I'm safer that way.
and, you know, and it's the saddest part because when you go in, no matter whether they're 20 or they're 50, you know, in their 50s, and when we go in and talk to them, you know, the unfortunate piece is that when they know that they're doing heroin or fentanyl at this point, you know, like, you know, because that's a lot of what we're seeing is fentanyl, they know that they're taking that risk. It's a 50-50 shot. You're either going to live or die. And when you sit and talk to them, and for that individual who's struggling with that addiction over the course of their life and that they're at that point, sometimes death is easier. They're okay with it.
Now, okay, now help me understand something. Everything that we've heard is fentanyl was lacing fentanyl with heroin. So the people were opting for heroin, and the bad news is they're getting fentanyl in there as a booster.
That was originally, that was the bad news, that it was laced with
But
it.
you're telling me that people are opting to take fentanyl?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's Russian roulette.
And it's because, you know, the heroin is now cut with so much other stuff that, you know, they want to get high or they want to feel that feeling, and fentanyl's around. I mean, we've seen many cases where it's been cocaine has been cut with fentanyl. So not understanding, you know, why somebody who's doing cocaine overdoses, and that's because there's fentanyl mixed in it. You know, there's so many things that it's scary. It's really scary.
Now, I understood, and again, pardon my ignorance, but when you read about drug dealers cutting cocaine or cutting heroin with baby powder or rat poison, whatever it was,
To give it a little weight,
so that
they could sell more,
they
make
could
more
sell
money.
more, make more money. That I understood. I mean, sleazy SOBs, but they're taking a pound and making it 3 pounds and charging the same for it. Why fentanyl? Is it brand? Are they trying to make it
It's fire dope, is what it's called. You know, like,
fire dope?
that's what you call it, because if I overdose on, if you sold me my dope and I overdose, you've got the good drugs, you've got the fire dope, so everybody's going to go to you because you've got the good stuff. And no matter what,
So you are creating a brand. These
Yeah.
SOBs are adding in more and more fentanyl to create a brand saying my, whatever you're calling
I
it,
just got
dog meat is worth more than yours.
Right.
So buy mine.
and they'll give you the warning that it's pretty strong, so don't do as much, you know, and so that it doesn't happen. But I mean, there is an attraction to when there are repeated, I mean, because you'll see you know, and unfortunately, we've had a lot of overdoses recently that it is because of, you know, like as soon as one starts,
Oh,
it
give me a
comes
break.
real
So I'm going to
quickly.
tell you, oh, by the way, Amy, this is hot stuff. Only do 23 milligrams. Don't do 28. So take out your analytical balance and weigh out exactly 0.023 grams.
I probably will do a little bit less because you told me, but when it doesn't hit me as fast as I wanted to, I'm going to do a little bit more
Okay.
because you lied to me. And it wasn't as much of fire dope, but then I'm in the ER.
So then when you, pardon my French, bitch at me because it wasn't as oomph, it's kind of like getting spicy food. It wasn't really as spicy.
Right.
Okay, really? I'll come back
The
next time.
sriracha wasn't as hot.
Exactly. So now I'm going to give you something that'll really knock your socks off, and all it's going to do for me is burn my tongue. In this case, I'm going to burn your
My life.
respiratory system. I mean, you know, you sit there and say, I mean, opioids are incredibly effective respiratory inhibitors. They really do work well.
And there's a purpose for them in the medical field. You know, like there is a purpose for these drugs. That's why they are there. That's why they were invented. But at this point, you know,
If they do their job, they're going to shut down your ability to breathe.
yes,
So your lungs will stop.
you will go into respiratory distress.
Right.
And, you know, to know what happens to, you know, and to know what happens to somebody when they're overdosing and they're, you know, and they're slowly dying is very
But
scary.
isn't it, in a crude term, aren't they just suffocating? I mean, when I'm overdosing,
Yeah.
I'm racing, you know, my metabolism is racing as fast as it can, and my lungs are shutting down.
And so is the rest of my body. And, you know, there's no oxygen going to your brain, and you go into that. And, you know, it's just,
So what do we do? I mean, we're over the myth that these are only sleazy, skanky people
Right.
in Boston. These are our neighbors, our friends. That
I mean, it's anybody. And, you know, and I think about it all the time, like, what has the difference been over, you know, from the origination of this happening to now? And, you know, we've been fortunate enough, you know, to have our China grant, and we've had the town funding that we, you know, had put in the earmark 2 years ago, which we haven't even touched yet, you know, and then we have the earmark that the state gave us to give us staff, basically. You know, and I look at this and I'm like, we are doing a lot. We're making a big difference with a little bit of money. We're only needing to use a little bit, you know, because we're reaching so many people.
But now you said 80 people have overdosed.
82 have overdosed, but out of those
And 7, so we've been
have
able to
passed away.
save
82.
90%.
Right. But that's who, so those, when I say that number, those are the ones who have had a medical call and they've been taken to the hospital through the Milford Police, so the Milford, Upton, or Hopedale Police Department that's part of the Regional Substance Navigation. The 82 are ones that we've responded to just in Milford. But outside of that number, what we've really done in the program is we've worked with, so last year we had 1,000, let's just say it was 1,050 people that we worked with. Already this year we have, I think, 953 individuals that we have had face-to-face encounters with, that have walked through our doors, that have made a phone call and
These
have
are the ones
reached
that are
out.
I realize I need help.
Yes. And to me, that is why this program is so effective, because it is not meeting them in the hospital. It is them picking up that phone and saying, I need help, or calling the police station and knowing one of our recovery coaches is also a dispatcher. And so, you know, they may know, I heard that, you know, we can get help. How can I get help? You know, or a parent calling, what do I do? We heard that we needed to call you. We know this number. And, or they just come in.
Do you need to get the person to the stage where they say, I need help? I mean, if a parent thinks their child is
Needs help.
involved. What can they do?
Well, and sometimes it's a matter of talking with the parent because they just need somebody to talk to, that they can be totally honest and upfront with what they're feeling and have no shame in what they're saying and know that somebody is not going to judge them. And together, there's many times that we get a plan. And that plan is usually just ask your son or daughter to give me a call or just shoot me a text or ask them if I can text them.
But wait a minute. We ought to admire the parent
For picking up that phone.
that says, I think I might possibly
Right.
consider having a problem. That's got to be the worst phone call.
Yeah.
I mean, things can happen to me all day long, and yeah, okay, I'm an old man, I deserve it, but not my daughters.
And you know, the one thing that I praise the parents for doing this is because they heard through somebody and somebody that this is a place that you could get help, and they don't care anything about, they're not going to have any judgment on you.
God bless you. I hope you're wrong. Lady, I hope you are
Right.
wrong for your sake. But God bless you for having the courage
Right.
to say, Amy, help me, make sure I'm wrong. And if I'm not, put me on a path.
Or what do I need to do? And
Exactly.
You know, and the thing is with the parents is that my first question always is, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Because nobody asks, and as a parent, we're last. Because when our kids are struggling, we take care of everybody else and then us. And so I think one of the biggest parts is, you know, that is the most important thing to me, is to make sure that the parents are okay. And to make sure that they know that even if their son and daughter doesn't want help, we're here for them.
No, but again, the parents should feel no shame, because what they're saying is, I'm worried about my child. How can I not admire a parent
I know.
who says, I'm worried?
But
I
it's
hope
that-
you're wrong.
It's that stigma, it's that, you know, it's that judgment, it's all of those things. And, you know, some of it's, you know, the young kid that's 15 and is sneaking out and is getting in trouble, and I think they're getting into other things, and it's that one, or it's the one who's saying, they're just not the same, I don't know what's going on.
And again, you get to that high school age, they're changing anyway.
Right.
You know, I remember how absolutely mean my darling bride was to my daughter when junior year. I mean, my wife would come home and say things to her like, hi, boom, an explosion.
Right.
And it's like, how could you be so...
Well, and sometimes that's a conversation, is what is normal adolescence and what is concern?
And you don't know. That's why
Well, and
any
that's what I
parent
say
who's
to them.
worried,
Right, I say,
God bless for asking the question, because my poor wife would come up, I just said hi. Yes, how could you do that?
well, and I always would say to Jeff, like, you know, Gabe's not showering. Is he depressed? No, he's 15. You know,
Yeah.
he's 13. He doesn't shower. You know, and it's like, that's normal. But in, you know, like, is he depressed? Is something wrong?
But see,
You know,
you brought up something that, with multiple children, one of your strongest assets is the kids know.
yeah,
And if you really can talk to one of them, they're going to be more worried about their sibling than even their parents.
right.
And they're going to be closer. And they may not rat you out, but yeah, Jeff has a problem.
Yeah,
And then, I'm not going to say another word, but okay, there's a tip.
yeah.
You know, so I hate to say getting one kid to rat on the other, but, you know, at this point, who cares?
That's what I always say. They're going to hate, you know, like when the parents call, they're going to be upset with me. They're going to hate you, but it's because you love them. And eventually they'll remember.
They hate me anyway. A boy would come in, I'd call it Spot. You know, Dad, you're embarrassing me. Great, that's my job.
Right.
You know, my job is to embarrass you. Make no mistake.
Yeah.
You know, and years later, she still reminds me that most of the boys that came to the house I called Spot. You know, there's just another dog coming in. You know, and it was a joke, but half of them played soccer for me, so I got to make fun of them.
All right, you knew them.
Yeah, and I think that was the biggest thing is we had a girl on the team who, I remember pulling the team aside saying, we got a problem. she's hanging out with kids that worry me. Guys, they said, we got it. And the team went around. But it was hard for me to say, hey guys, you know I love all of you, but one of us could be headed down a bad path.
Right.
And if I could have told the parents all day long. The parents can't do anything about it.
But those girls,
The girls could. They knew who was.
they rallied around and gave her what she needed.
And
the
apparently,
support.
every time she went near some of these kids, they'd all circle. And the kids didn't like having the soccer kids circle.
Right.
You know, do I feel proud that I interfered in her life? You know, damn straight.
That's right.
You know, and was it out of bounds for me to do it? Damn straight. But she
you
was one of
cared.
mine.
Right. You cared.
And if the worst thing I get accused of is interfering where, and I talked to the parents, and the mother was like, if you could help, I can't say anything. I said, not a problem.
Right.
You know, people come to you. What do they face?
Like, what do we help them with?
I come to you and I say, I got a problem. Now, I don't know how anybody can be taking 3 oxys a day.
And afford it.
Number one, afford $250 a day. I mean, I'm married with children. I don't get an allowance anywhere near that.
Right.
Right? But maintain a job that gives me $40,000, $50,000 a year of disposable income. My God. So I can see where if I need to get to baseline, I'm going to slide down the path and go to heroin.
Right. It's cheaper.
$15 or whatever it is, a shot, a hit, or a sniff, whatever it is. Okay, that's $45.
It's more affordable. I mean, but when they come in to us, the first question is, what do you want to do? You know, because they may come in and I'm not ready to go to detox. I'm not ready to go to program. I don't do meetings. I just need somebody to talk to, or I need a, medically assisted treatment, whatever it may be. It's asking them, where are they at? What do they want?
Is it safe to think that the reason your program has been so effective is you don't have a cookie cutter, that
That's
you
right.
actually listen and, okay, I'm a heroin addict. I'm not ready to stop.
Okay.
See, that I wouldn't ever think it, shame on you. You shouldn't do that. Well, okay, then I'm leaving.
That's exactly what would happen, is we're going to meet them with resistance, but, they'll be that resistance, but the question is, what do you want to do? Because this isn't my journey. This is your journey. I will help you in what you need and get where you need to get, or the services, and make some phone calls, but this isn't
But
where I'm
obviously, if I
going.
come to you, I want to change. Because I wouldn't come in
That's right.
if I didn't want something to change.
But if I told you what you wanted to change, you're not changing.
So it's like telling your teenager.
That's right. And, I want you to come back. And the one thing that, all these people that we have interacted with, whether it's me or any of my other staff, they continue to call just to say, I'm doing well, thank you.
Wow.
Or, I'm struggling,
Help.
I don't want to go down that path. Or, Amy, I got a friend, he's struggling, can we get him some help? I may not have talked to him for a long time, but they know, here's a safe place, let's just call.
This is a silly question coming from somebody from the Finance Committee, but are we providing enough resource?
I have been doing a lot of, like, what do we need? What are we missing, really? Because this part, we've got this. I'm sure there's always more that we could do, but what is the piece that we're missing? Because now we're seeing our people are getting better. Like, they're on that road. We're helping people get to the road of recovery. So once they get there, what do we have for them? We don't. We don't have the resources for them. We don't have the support here to help them get a job. We don't have the skills to teach them how to balance, like, a place we really need a
Like a
resource
halfway
center.
house, or?
I mean, yeah, that would be great. But even before that, we need like a resource center where, we can, that's walkable, that's someplace local that everybody can walk to. You don't need to drive there because a lot of people can't get there. And, it's going to have, resources. Our staff would be there to be able to help them with what we already do, but workshops on how to do Microsoft Word, how to write a resume, how to, balance a checkbook. What is even life insurance? What is, investments in 401ks? Why is that even important? What's Social Security? How do I get my GED? Just a place to teach them. And there's so many models that are out there already. There's other resources that are out
Why do I
there.
have a hard time, and I'm not questioning you, but we got Memorial Hall.
We have
that we-
places that we
yeah.
can do it.
I was going to say,
You're right. We have places that we can do it. And now it's a matter of the things, so what has come out of the unfortunate piece of, losing a child is that a lot of the parents and myself, we've really come together and what can we do? And we've been able to, we did like a holistic health fair and trying to raise money so the town has been able to put a substance abuse like kind of pocket of money that we've raised through the loss of people that, they've donated the funds to these services. So we have that, we've done that. Now we need to figure out, okay, how do we get this resource center up and running? What is it that we need? How can we learn from the mistakes of other places and all of that? So that's where we're at this point, is kind of developing a business plan that if I was to come, or the group was to come to the finance committee, what are we asking for? We know that we have, the impact funds from the marijuana, like from the groweries, that
Sure.
will be coming. That needs to go back. Is this part of something that could, that we could approach the
I
town?
think it starts with the plan, like you say.
It starts at
Because
there.
there'll be a lot of us who, if we understand,
Right. What do you need? But there's a lot of things that, and I keep on saying this, is like we can do a lot with a little, and the computers, those can be donated. There's many people who would donate it. Does it need to be open 24 hours? Like it doesn't need to be open 9 hours a day. Are there there's so many things. We have our staff that's trained in trauma therapy yoga and anxiety assisted.
trauma therapy yoga.
Yep. So trauma-informed yoga to help when people have gone through trauma, so they can do yoga to learn that they have control over their body and that they have the right. And anxiety and
Yeah,
depression
with a body
focus.
in my shape, I have no control.
But there's so many. We just partnered with the Milford Youth Center to do animal-assisted therapy, so we can bring, have one of my staff who's an expressive therapist and works with the young kids. She's going to do a year-long training to really learn about animal-assisted therapy and what does that work with adolescents, but also addicts. So can we incorporate that stuff? So there's so much. This could be such a rich thing for the town of Milford, because we don't have that. We don't have an intensive outpatient program, which is if you went to detox and you needed more therapy than once a week, you need something 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. People have to go to Worcester. Yes, they have transportation, but we have nothing here. We need it. We
So-
need it.
How do we get
Well,
the next step?
so that step of doing that IOP is, I need to look into the, one placement, making sure that it's, I have to talk to Harold Rhodes about the handicap accessibility and just looking at what is the ADA requirements of the building if mine meets it. So
But if it doesn't,
then we can fix it.
then you
and
go
we
to
can
Harold
find-
and you say, help us.
Well, exactly.
it.
And I need his assistance to help me understand what it is that I'm looking at, because I don't know that. And, if there's someplace else, maybe we look at a different, I do think that for an IOP, I would think that it should be outside of our office, because we do have a lot of young kids that come to our office, so I think it does need to be separate. But, and then it's going through, getting a DPH BSAS license, which we can do. You know, like we're a team
But you know,
here.
you start thinking about, you mentioned, working with Jen Ward down at the youth center. Well, the youth center is ADA compliant.
But the
senior
group of
center.
people that we're bringing in there, we've done a lot of work making that youth center be a positive place. And
So maybe
sometimes
it's Memorial Hall.
Could be
Maybe
somewhere.
it's,
It
you know,
could
you
be
sit
so
there, 'cause
many
I can see
places.
Jen saying, hey, look, let's not
right.
mix
And I
elements that
would
shouldn't.
be right.
Okay, so the youth center is out. Senior center. I mean, if anybody, Sue Trotter or Sue Clark. She's got a heart of gold for everybody.
There is so much, you know, and I don't think that it's the physical location isn't what I am worried about, to be honest with you, because I think there's so many, and I think the town has embraced this and knows that this is effective and this is, you know, affecting so many people that that's not like on the top of my list.
And we always complain we don't have any money. But I've never seen the town of Milford turn their backs on Milfordians who need help.
And I think, you know, one of the interesting parts is, you know, and the chief will talk about it all the time, is that I apply for so many grants and I get turned down. You know, there's some that we get turned down. And, you know, one of the parts is I always think about it and I'm like, shame, I say to myself, shame on me because I've worked with no money, because I'm not going to give up on the efforts that I have. And, you know, that's who I am. But funders sometimes say, like, well, she's going to do it anyway, so why fund her, you know? And then I also look at it and say, when I do the budget, I'm like, we really don't need that much. Because, you know, when we look at the Chenal grant,
That's why I say, if you come to us
I need a plan.
and you say, this is the plan, you got a good chance of getting it funded, because we know you're not just coming saying, throw millions at me and I'll figure it out.
Right.
You know, if somebody wants to help, how do they get a hold of you?
My cell phone is the best way. And I think the world has it, but it's 508-864-6509.
And if you forget it, call the town hall, call the police station.
Yeah.
Again, as you can see, a wonderful person, somebody who we're really proud of having in Milford and really helping out. But God, I hope you go out of business in a short period of time.
10 years.
10 To our loyal viewers, our 6 loyal viewers, thanks for joining us. If you can help a worthy cause, please consider helping. May God bless. And for those people who have a question, call Amy. If you forget everything, call the town hall, call the police station, and say, I think I need help, or I'd like to talk to somebody. They'll put you in touch with Community Impact. Thank you again. Good night. And thank you for everything you do
Thank you very
for
much.
Not too long since I've been home.